The word decree, God's decree, is mighty important and powerful. In the Grok's definition, God's decree refers to a theological concept describing the sovereign will, command, or plan of God as understood in Christianity. Okay, it is the decree of God is the will of God. It's a sovereign will. It's not just the will of God. It's a sovereign will of God, and it's a command. So like God's decree, like in the movie, the mighty emperor decreed that every child, like Jesus' time, every son born in under 3 years old to be killed in Jerusalem when in Israel when Jesus was born. King Herod was an evil king. Out of his insecurity, for example, he issued a decree. So that is a man's decree. But what is God's decree? God's decree carries his sovereign will and represents his divine authority and purpose. And it refers to his eternal plan or purpose, including providence, salvation, everything. So the proper definition of the decrees of God, as in Westminster's Catechism, is the decrees of God are his eternal plan. It's amazing, right? The decrees of God is actually God's eternal plan. Basically, the decrees of God is the plan of God. It's kind of a little bit far stretch distance between the two, but the decrees of God are his eternal plan based on the purpose of his will. Now it makes sense. A plan that is based on, I could say the decrees of God are his will, right? The decrees of God are his will. But it's the eternal plan. The decrees of God are the eternal plan of God. The decrees of God are his eternal plan based on the purpose of his will, by which, for his own glory, he has foreordained everything that happens. The decrees of God carries the fore-ordination of everything that happens. It's a really powerful concept. So whatever you see what you do in life, even though it may not be the best in the world, know that with a grain of salt that in the far stretch, God will work it out. It might not look very good now, but God has a plan. Just like Joseph was thrown into the pit by his own brothers, betrayed by his own brothers. And then he was thrown into jail, betrayed again by his master's wife, Potiphar's wife, his master Potiphar really actually loved him. He was a top servant. And the wife tried to seduce him. He rejected her and ended up, she falsely accused him and thrown into jail. And he was in jail, I don't know for how long, months perhaps, before God elevated him to the position of the prime minister of Egypt. Who would have thought that through jail he met the Pharaoh, because he could interpret dreams, God-given ability. So that is the decree of God. That's the divine sovereignty, the purpose of God allowing Joseph to throw into pit, for example. So if you take it back to yourself, everything works to the glory of God. In all things, God works for the good of those who love him. Romans, in all things, God works for those who love him and fear him.